أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون قال سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما صدق الله العظيم وصدق على رسوله النبي الكريم قال رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل في السر والإعلان أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وأتباعه وأوليائك وعلمائك وشهدائك وبارك وسلم صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. In Allah's name, the most merciful and compassionate. Allah Azza wa Jal has our deepest gratitude and devotion. We recognize His magnificence and turn to Him for guidance, sustenance, and forgiveness. We seek His protection from the evil of our actions, the evil within us, and the evil around us. When Allah guides someone, no power in the universe can lead them astray. And when Allah misleads one, no one can bring them back to the path of guidance. I bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only deity worthy of worship. And I recognize Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam as His devoted servant and messenger. An abundance of durood and salawat upon the best of creation, the crown of creation, the jewel of creation. Nabi Kareem rahmatan lil alameen. Our master Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, his noble family, his blessed companions, and the honorable wives. I greet all elderly and youth, those present and those watching via social media with the peace and blessings of Salamualaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A long time ago, during the time between the reign of Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam to during the reign of Sayyidina Sulaiman, there lived a man, a great man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a wali, a friend of Allah. And his name was Luqman. And in the surah which was named after him, Surah 31, Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He has bestowed great wisdom to Luqman radiallahu ta'ala. And Sayyidina Luqman at what point in his life lived as a slave? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him and he remained on the path of patience and taqwa. He continued to show thanks and gratitude to Allah Azza wa Jal. One day his slave master said to him, "O Luqman, you are a man of wisdom. Go and slaughter the sheep and bring back 2 of the best body parts from it." Sayyidina Luqman did as he was told and brought back the tongue and the heart. Seeing this, his master was a little bit surprised, as the master was expecting him to bring the 2 best parts of meat from the body. So then his master told him once again, the next day, to slaughter a sheep again, and this time bring the two worst parts of the sheep. Sayyidina Luqman did as he was told, and then brought back the exact same two parts, the tongue and the heart. And the slave master, being shocked, questioned, how can these two parts be the worst and the best? Sayyidina Luqman, with his great wisdom, explained that if you utilize the tongue and the heart correctly, it can be the best for you. And if you misuse them, then they will be the worst. They will lead to your demise and disgrace. And this is what we are going to examine today. Specifically, the actions and sins of the tongue. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an one day came to the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam and he asked, what is one thing that will take me into Jannah? And what is one thing that will take me into Jahannam? Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam answered, explaining that the one thing that will take you into Jannah, O Abu Hurairah, will be taqwa, God consciousness, piety. And when it came to the one thing that will take you into Jahannam, he took out his blessed tongue with ishara and held on to it, indicating that your tongue is that which can take you into Jahannam. Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam then continued, looking at Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Sayyid al-Ulama, who was also present, and he explained, this which is between your mouth is like a serpent. Today you are under the impression that you have control over it, and tomorrow it will bite back at you. Today you think you can control your tongue, and tomorrow on the day of judgment it will bite back at you. The Prophet ﷺ said, the destruction of man lies in three things: his stomach, his lusts, and his tongue. He also explained that with our zuban, the tongue, it will be the thing that will take majority of our ummah, our nation, into Jahannam. The reason majority of the people who will go into Jahannam is because of their actions of their tongues. Sayyidina Mu'adh ibn Jabal came to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam one day, and he told Rasulullah there is an ikhtilaf, a quarrel between his neighbors. And he asked Rasulullah for advice. He explained that one of his neighbors was a woman, a very pious woman. She was very excellent with her ibadah. She upheld her salah, all her fasts, paid all her zakat and extra charity, all to a very high level of excellence. However, he explained that she caused pain to her other neighbor with her words. The Prophet ﷺ immediately said, indeed, she is in the hellfire. So from this we have to understand that you can be the best namazi, never miss a salah, fast throughout the year, pay tons of zakat and sadaqah, and you can do all of these acts of worship. But if you cannot control your tongue and your akhlaq, all of it is a waste. Salah will just be exercise. Fasting will just be starving yourself. Zakat and sadaqah will be a waste of money. All if you cannot uphold the laws of akhlaq, especially with your tongue. Now there are many sins of the tongue, many different ways that you can misuse this blessing of Allah and fall into sin. But of all of them, there is the one that is definitely the worst of them all. This sin is said to be the most grave and dangerous sin after the sin of shirk. It is speaking falsehood upon the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everyone, today you will see a lot of people doing this. Wallah, wallahi, wallahi billah. Allah ki qasam. They will continuously say this without even understanding what they are saying, what they are taking an oath upon. On and on, without even comprehending the actual severity of the oath they just took. And the Prophet ﷺ said regarding this, do not trust the individual who loosely takes an oath upon Allah, who loosely says Wallah, and is always swearing upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, that individual who takes an oath upon the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then speaks falsehood will be thrown into the Jahannam. And the essence of the aforementioned sin of the tongue is probably the most common sin of the tongue. Lying. It is the most common, especially when it comes to small lies, white lies. The lies that you cannot even remember. They are the ones that accumulate and cause the greatest destruction for us. And we know the famous narration from Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, where he explained, for every time you lie, a scorpion or a serpent is going to come to your grave and sting you for your life. And Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam was walking in Jannatul Baqi, and he stopped at two graves. And he said that these two are being punished in the grave. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, he was there, he was present, and he asked, why are they being punished? The Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam explained, pointing to the first one and with his blessed ishara, he did not protect his tahara. He did not uphold his purification. And the second was the ultimate liar. He was the one who used to spread tales, spread falsehood. And then we have many more sins that branch off from these sins. Another one of them is backbiting, ghibba. The very famous narration by Abu Hurairah, which most of us know, in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam mentions that if you talk bad about someone and falsify about someone while they are not present to defend themselves, it is as if you have eaten the rotten, dead flesh of your brother. So this puts into perspective, before we start to speak about someone, especially if they are not there to defend themselves, and we intend to speak negatively, we should imagine our own brother lying in front of us, and we are eating their dead flesh. And if this is mortifying to you, then understand the severity of the sin that is ghibba. And even if what you are saying is true, then you are still sinful. This is because the individual you are speaking about is not there to defend themselves or even apologize. So if someone has wronged you, you cannot bear it. You should go speak to them rather than backbiting. And when people around you start to backbite, you shall do one of three things. Firstly, you can defend the individual who is being spoken about, especially if they are innocent and you know it. Otherwise, you should tell that individual who is backbiting to stop. And finally, if nothing else works, you should just get up and leave. And another branch of ghibba is slandering, buhtan. This is when you are speaking ill of someone and what you are saying is completely false. You are just speaking ill to disrepute and dishonor said individual. And one way people slander indirectly is through another deadly sin of the tongue, which is referred to as rumor mongering. The one who spreads rumors without knowing whether they are true or not. This is a form of slandering, it is just indirect. It is regarded as slandering as well because it is still defaming the individual. It is still dishonoring that individual. The only difference is that the aspect of lying is taken out. People do this to make it seem like they are not negative and bad individuals. But in reality, buhtan or rumor mongering is just as bad as any of the previously mentioned sins. And if one individual creates this rumor out of falsehood, it is even worse. And from prophetic tradition, it is understood to be the worst and highest level of lying. Ifqul azam. Another very common sin of the tongue is called namima, which means malicious gossip or tale carrying. This is very common today. This is when one carries tales or rumors or what someone said about someone else to that person. And they do this to cause conflict between the individuals. And people even do this today while lying, which combines the two aforementioned sins, if and namima. This malicious gossip is what causes so many fights and conflicts today, especially between family members or relatives. And when we see someone doing this to us, we must do these things. Firstly, we shall not believe what has been said about you. And then you must tell whoever is speaking to stop. And you must show this displeasure. And do not have bad thoughts about who they said spoke about you. And do not try to investigate. And if you do these things, you can protect yourself from this major sin and also please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Along with this, you can protect yourself from conflict between that individual. And maybe you can even change somebody else for the better. But the first thing we have to do is understand the severity of these sins of the tongue. And the worst thing about these sins is that these sins do not require us to even use our tongues anymore. What does this mean? Everyone can backbite, lie, spread rumors, slander and gossip, and commit all these sins of the tongue on our phones. Texting is now the biggest way people are going to commit these sins. It is the biggest fitna of our time. Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said in his final sermon, when he went for Hajj al-Wida, he said, أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. أوصيكم ونفسي. You must control your nafs, and control this by having بتقوى الله, taqwa in Allah, God consciousness. How shall we do this? When you are speaking, and when you're about to lie or backbite or slander or create gossip and spread rumors and falsehood, then do not think no one can hear you. Do not be in the vile thoughts that you are alone. Understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is As-Sami, the all-hearing, and Al-Basir, the all-seeing. And this is what we truly must understand to be able to have true piety and taqwa, and to be able to stop committing these sins and stop others as well. And this message is for all of us, as these sins of the tongue are those that every single one of us commits, one or the other, by speaking them or by listening to them while they are happening in front of us. This is still sinful. If one is backbiting or spreading rumors and you are not stopping them, you are not doing tahaffuz of the Sharia, this is still sinful, as it is obligatory upon every single individual to do tahaffuz of the Sharia according to what they know. And we must follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command and Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam's sunnah. And by this, we must follow him in praying and making dua for the ummah as well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect us from anything that would harm us. Ya Allah, we ask you to give aid to those Muslims who are in trouble all around the world. Ya Allah, help and protect the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, the people of Sheikh Jarrah and Rafah. Ya Allah, ease their pain and suffering. Ya Allah, allow your doors of mercy to be opened. Ya Allah, protect the besieged. Ya Allah, open your doors of mercy, sustenance and protection. Ya Allah, protect us from the adhab during the end of times. Ya Allah, bless us all with husn al-khatimah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Anything I have said in error is from me, and anything I have said which has benefited you is from Allah Azza wa Jal. JazakAllah for listening. Wa akhir dawaya an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll have the brothers go around for donations. We have a couple announcements, inshallah. On Saturday, August the 31st, 2024, at after Asr, 6:25 p.m., we have our Urse Ala Hazrat, Rahmatullah Alayh. We have a speech by Imam Amir Qadri, tilawat by Sheikh Muhammad Al-Azhari. We will have many Nat and Mankabat, Sayyid Shuaib, Sidi Zuhair, and a guest, Yusuf Tirmizi, will also be doing Nat. On the 31st of August, inshallah, everybody is invited on Saturday, August 31st, for Urse Ala Hazrat. The biggest event, annual Mawlidun Nabi on Saturday, September 21st. Open to all brothers and sisters. We are going to have our Mawlidun Nabi. Inshallah, we'll start with our Jalus outside, our annual Jalus. And then we will have our inside event. We will have Nat and Mankabat. Our host will be Umar Qadri. We're going to have an international Nat Khawan who is going to be here, who is also an alim of the deen. So everybody is invited for that on Saturday, September the 21st. And leading up to those days, the 12 days, we will have every day we will have the event after Asr Salat as well, to understand and learn more about the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Inshallah, on Saturday, August 24th, which is next week, next Saturday, we will have our annual Madrasa Awards banquet. Everybody is invited for that as well, to celebrate and honor our students who have been learning very hardly and putting a lot of effort throughout the year as well. And for Madrasa starting up again on September 3rd, we have Quran, we have Tajweed classes, we have Qaida as well. For anybody who has children who would like to learn, we have some students here as well. So everybody is free to register your students for Madrasa as well.